and welcome back to the series. So today we are talking about moving pictures, which technically speaking is the 9th Discworld novel. However, I would call it the 10th because I am pedantic and I count the novelette Eric as the 9th. So there! So Moving Pictures was originally published in 1990, and it is, per the title, and the wonderful cover by Josh Kirby. Look at that. It's all about the pictures, and it's about Holywood. Not Hollywood, Holywood. The alchemists of the Discworld have discovered the magic of the silver screen. But what is the dark secret of the Holywood Hill? It's up to Victor Tugglebend. Can sing, can dance, can handle a sword a little, and Theda Withel. I come from a little town you probably never heard of to find out. I mean, I'm pretty certain that we could figure out several famous actors and actresses that Victor and Theda, who is generally called Ginger. I'm pretty certain that we could find several actors and actresses who these two characters remind us of. There are so many allusions to so many movies and musicals that this book derives from. It's fun. Like, a little part of the text is gonna be like, "Ooh, is that movie? Is that musical?" Or entire scenes, such as a scene where a character goes dancing through the rain in Ankh-Morpork is quite obviously a reference to Dancing in the Rain with Fred Astaire, I believe. I don't know, don't come at me. I don't know anything about the old movies. I just watched some of them and then what I know is what I know. But this book I love. It's so much fun. Essentially, it's about Hollywood. And it's about magic. Both movie magic and the magic of the Discworld. And it's about monsters. Like, it's just, I love this. I love the entire concept of this blessed book. It's just how Sir Terry Pratchett could take an idea like Hollywood and so many just thoughts and ideas that bubble around that whole entire thing about Hollywood and just make it into a fancy novel. It's just, the man was a genius. So enough prattling about that. So the story proper starts yet again with the Discworld. If you've been watching the series so far, or you have read the Discworld, you know that the Discworld it's a flat world standing on the back of 4 giant elephants standing on the shell of a ginormous world turtle who is swimming through the planes of existence. The Discworld exists on the very edge of the possibility of reality. It just right on the edge of what is possible. And because of that, the Discworld is constantly at danger of not existing anymore, because reality can always snap back. This is me trying to foreshadow the fact that we are gonna have some more of the Dungeon Dimensions, because it's magic. The things are gonna make the princess know. Well, the story proper starts on a shore where an old man dies alone. So again, the very first character we generally meet on Discworld is Death. Our very favorite character, because who doesn't love Death? He is a fantastic character. The unfortunate man who dies is called Deccan Ribob, who quite clearly has been alone on this place for many years, and he was guarding something. And with his passing, and when the fire that he kept going goes out, something escapes. And we very quickly find out it's a wild idea, and wild ideas at the edge of reality are dangerous. And then of course we cut back straight to Ankh-Morpork, because all roads lead to Ankh-Morpork. And is a wizard. Particularly a young student wizard called Victor Tuckelben. I cannot remember his last name. So he becomes one of our duo main characters. Getting ahead of myself, the ones that we do meet first are the alchemists, because well, the wild idea wants to become reality, and in order to become reality, it starts spreading. I am so not explaining this. I'm realizing that explaining the core plot of the story itself is a little bit difficult, because at the same time I'm trying to talk about dreams and Hollywood, and the alchemists are at the core of the moving pictures, because when you think about cinematography, it is alchemy. It is magic without being magic. So in order to, for example, make the films and the little picture boxes that, you know, film everything, you need alchemy. And this book does go into fantastic details of how you can actually make a film in a fancy world. It involves string and imps, and the film has a risk of exploding if you aren't careful enough, so there's that. They also make popcorn, except that on the Discworld, because they are literal minded, and I mean, when you think about the word popcorn, it is logical that they reach the conclusion of calling it baked grains. Because the thing that I love about Discworld is that it can be very, very logical, at the same time it is not. This is also the book where we properly meet Mushroom Ridcully, the Archangel of the Unseen University. So far, throughout the books that we have read so far that deal with Unseen University and the wizards, we have not had the same Archangel or the head wizard for very long. Wizards are, I mean, they may look like kind old grandfathers and uncles, but they are murderous little. So the fact that we finally reached Archangel Ridcully, I am so happy, because essentially the wizards figured that they were gonna get some quiet, humble country wizard to fill the shoes for a couple of months while they recuperate and start planning again. They expected him to be not who he is. Mushroom Ridcully is a character, and let's just say that he is a character that we stay with, or who stays with us throughout the entirety of the series. This is also where we meet the poor Bursar, who I'm pretty certain that this is where his sanity is lost. I mean, the main culprit is Ridcully, but like. So the thing about Hollywood is that the magic of Hollywood is starting to call people to it. Because in order for a dream to become a reality, it needs people. And that includes, you know, our friend Victor Tuckelben. Is it Tuckelben? I feel like it's Tuckelben. Yep, Tuckelben. It's Cut Me Own Throat Dibbler, who is a merchant extraordinaire, like he's essentially a hot dog seller. He is a jack of all trades, and he always fails at whatever he does. We've got Thomas Silverfist, the alchemist, who invents what they call kinematography. Pardon my pronunciation. We got Etretus the Troll, who I'm pretty certain we met before. Like, he is possibly the most famous troll on the Discworld or in Ankh-Morpork. And we also meet Gaspode, the wonder dog, or the talking dog, who woke up one morning realizing that he could speak, which is a horrible thing, as he says, for a dog to realize. So talking about throat, he is firmly gripped by the magic of Hollywood. He is your quintessential slimy producer, and he slithers his way into Silverfish's company. Silverfish. I feel like there was like I don't know enough about the history of film, but I feel like there was someone called Gold something in the history of film in America. I have a strong feeling for it. Like, don't come for me, but I'm pretty certain that there was. So Thomas Silverfish, he is one of the first people to make moving pictures, and he's very imaginative. He's more interested in making accurately historical films and something that is informative and not as entertaining. Honestly, the description of a movie about making pottery would have been interesting, except someone like Silverfish would make it very, very boring. But throughout, he's definitely entertainment. He is definitely gripped by the magic of Hollywood. I feel like there's Lawrence of Arabia. There is Conan the Barbarian. Kind of feel like there's also some westerns thrown into this as well. Like everything that is entertaining and just in your face with the old Ben-Hur, maybe. Like that's just like all those old grand maxi movies of the bygone era. That's throat. So the thing about Hollywood is that everyone comes there. Doesn't matter if you're human, if you're dwarf, if you're a troll. There's a mention of the elusive elves, which are the rarest species on the Discworld. We do come to them proper probably in December. That will be, I think that's when we are going to be covering Lords and Ladies. Looking forward to that. But yeah, everyone is called to Hollywood and everyone is equal in Hollywood. Like, that's the good thing about it. But of course, this is a fancy novel, and as much as the entire thing about the cinematography, or just every single illusion and point about cinema, disregarding all that, it's still magic. And because we have the wizards and the university, of course there's something to do with the university. And turns out there is a very, very interesting forgotten item in one of the rooms in the university called a rasograph, which was made by Numbers Rector the Tinker. So a rasograph is a thingness writer or device for detecting and measuring disturbances in the fabric of reality. And if movies don't disturb the fabric of reality, then I don't know what does. So the wonderful thing about the cinema or the magic of Hollywood is that, for example, Victor and Ginger, when they just are doing their thing and starting to act in the cliques or the movies, the magic of Hollywood makes them do things that they don't know that they were going to be doing. They start acting out scenes and speaking lines that no one wrote because, mind you, at this stage there is no sound in the cliques. It's in that era. So all the text that they're speaking, like the audience is never gonna hear it. But the magic of Hollywood makes it happen. And the other thing that's really, really fun about this is that, you know how when you're talking about Hollywood on Earth and people talk about, you know, people being starstruck? I don't know where I was. I'm sorry if you can hear the TV. But our friend Victor here, he is the one who realizes or starts to realize what is actually going on. He finds the remains of our friend Deccan. He finds the book that Deccan kept the lodge. So Deccan was maintaining a certain ritual, which, you know, there's a reason for why there was a man wearing the remains of a snazzy red outfit with golden decorations, because this wild idea that is the Hollywood Hollywood dreams and its spreading. And one of the symptoms of the spreading of this dream is the mushrooming of, what do they call it? Moving pictures pit all over Ankh-Morpork, including the Odeum, which I am so certain is a reference to a certain movie theater, and I cannot remember what it's called. It's probably going to be something ridiculously and stupidly simple, and I'm probably going to bite myself when I figure out what it is. So I think we're about third of the way done, through the book, when Victor finally meets Gaspode. Gaspode is the talking dog, and he is instrumental in the plotline, figuring everything out, everything that happens in this book. And Gaspode brings Victor to the beach, where he meets a rabbit, a cat, a mouse, and a duck, and they can all speak. Well, apart from the duck because of the beak, but the other animals, they translate for the duck. But this meeting with the animals, or between Victor and the animals, is interrupted by the appearance of Ginger, who doesn't seem aware that she's there when Victor starts talking to her. She seems very, very confused. But this is also the point where we realize that everyone who is under the spell of Hollywood has little stars in their eyes. They're literally starstruck. They're literally starry-eyed. There's also the subplot of Throat's Order of 1,000 Elephants and the journey of the people bringing the elephants, how they are gathering them and just bringing them. I love it, especially the conclusion of that plotline is like, the elephants are one of the major things that I remember from this book. That and the thing with the tower. There's also an introduction of troll bars, where we met the wonderful, wonderful Ruby, who is a modern lady troll, and our friend Detritus, the very, very famous troll. Like, Detritus is one of those long-lasting characters within Morpork. He absolutely falls in love with Ruby and starts to woo her. But see, Ruby is a modern lady troll, and she wants more than the traditional wooing, which in troll culture is the male troll goes and finds a pretty rock, and then he smashes her face with the rock. But it's a pretty rock. And Ruby is like, no, bring me Ugra. Because trolls only have one word for vegetation, so that is just... I love it. I love it. We also get to meet Laddie, which... I mean, Laddie... I can't remember what his breed is called within the Discworld, but he is definitely... well, very obviously a send-off of Lassie. So that would be a... Shetland breed sheepdog. I can't remember. Really, really pretty breed. But Laddie, he is all looks, no brains, which is a reverse of Gaspode, who is all brains and wit and intelligence. He's really, really not a pretty dog. Not the ugliest breed, like, by far, but he's the muttiest of mutts. So throughout this entire thing is this repeating image of a... You're gonna love this. You're gonna love this. There's a repeating image of a giant golden man with a giant sword. I hold the cover like this. Does he look familiar? Obviously, we know where the inspiration for the giant golden man comes from. It's Oscar himself. Back to Ankh-Morpork, we got the librarian who starts an investigation of his own because he sees something in one of the films that he feels look familiar. And this is a point where he goes into the lowest levels of the library's Unseen University's library, the lowest level of the basements, where the most dangerous books are kept, including the Necrotelicomnicon. But this book, the Necrotelicomnicon, Was written by Ahmed Nemad, or Ahmed I Just Get These Headaches. He was a Platyan. This book does contain the legend of Hollywood. So basically what this old legend says is that the people of old Hollywood found a door within a hill. It was a door that led out of the world, which we've seen before in sorcery. Equal rights as well. Basically the people of Hollywood, to put it bluntly, the people of Hollywood, they watched movies, and watching the movies opened a rift in reality, which invited the others, or opened the gate to the others, to enter the Discworld and cause havoc and mayhem, which resulted in the city of Hollywood, which apparently was bigger than Ankh-Morpork, and Ankh-Morpork is a very, very big city. It resulted in Hollywood being stricken by the gods. The Bay of Hollywood is unusually circular. That's because the city is down there, the old city. Now, fortunately, there arrived a golden warrior who attacked the fiends and drove them out of the world. And in order to keep the fiends away and to keep the gate closed, people had to remember the warrior. Because as soon as they don't, shit will hit the fan. And it does. So every single person who has been called to Hollywood is a descendant of the survivors of Hollywood. This entire thing, being called to Hollywood, is because it's in their blood. Meaning that Detritus originates, his bloodline originates from there, Gaspod's bloodline originates from there, Victor's, Ginger's, Throat's, all these other people originate from Hollywood. Hollywood is calling back. There's also the possibility that Ginger is the descendant of the last high priestess, which is why she is having very, very weird dreams, and why she is being called to this gate, why she is being called to this warrior. And the description of the dream that she has, I love it, because it is a combination of what I found to be three logos of famous studios. You know, when you have been watching like movies, before the movie starts there's the logo of the studios. The first reference is to Paramount Pictures with the giant mountain. The second is to Columbia Pictures with the giant woman with the torch and the swords, and she's the one speaking to Ginger. And there she also mentioned a roaring lion, which is a reference to Metro Goldwyn Mayer, and I absolutely adored. I'm a little disappointed that there wasn't the Pegasus, but can't have everything. Victor and Gaspode have to go into the hill under Hollywood because Ginger has entered, and well, they found the cinema, although it's not called the cinema in the text, although you pretty much realize that it's a cinema, it's a movie theater. And there's an auditorium with a giant movie screen and a whole lot of seats, and all the seats are still occupied. The people of Hollywood are still in their seats. The thing that I love about this book is both that it references so many famous and wonderful movies. It's a mystery, it's a thriller, it's a fantasy, and it's a horror. And just the thought of those people sitting in those seats for however long that was, like over millennia, and they're still there. But of course we need to take the show back to Ankh-Morpork, to the moving picture pits, to the Odeum, because they are having a because of course we need a scene of the red carpet and people arriving, all that, and the magic of Hollywood just make everything topsy-turvy, because of course they have to have that, starts with a P, I cannot remember the word, starts with a P. It's the first showing of a movie, cannot remember the words, of the newest big film, the biggest film made on up until that point. And it's the Will Throat called the movie Blown Away. If you know the least amount about movies as I do, it's a parody of Gone with the Wind. It's Gone with the Wind on the Discworld. And of course, this is the part where I have been looking forward to the most. This is the part where we get all the wizards in place, buying and eating popcorn in the movie theater. Absolutely best part in this book. Because the creatures from the Dungeon Dimensions start breaking through on the ginormous movie screen. At the point where Victor and Ginger's lookalikes are on this screen. Meaning that we get a giant Ginger lookalike. A 50-foot tall woman terrorizing a Morpork, who then happens to grab the librarian, who you may remember is an orangutan, and then starts climbing the Tower of Art. Is King Kong in reverse, and then we have wizards on broomsticks playing the part of the airplanes. And this is a part that I remember from the book the best. Now, of course, Victor then goes to fight the thing to save the librarian. And this is definitely the part where we realize that Death of the Discworld absolutely detests the things from the Dungeon Dimensions. He does not like them. He detests them. That doesn't mean that the magic of Hollywood is not gone. It's not over. They have to go back to Hollywood to properly end things. And they have to go back to the halls under the hill and wake up the Guardian in order to properly end things. And I mean, our dear friend Oscar, the giant Guardian, he does his job just like he said that. And how this story ends, I absolutely love. Because as the magic of Hollywood slowly flickers away, or, falls asleep, the movie references still keep going. We get the treatise, Boone Ruby in a bar, and it's a clear reference to Casablanca, and I love it. Never seen Casablanca, but I knew that reference. And there's a happy ending for animals, because as the Hollywood magic leaves, their ability to speak and their sentience leaves along with it, which for them is a happy ending. The last that we see of Victor and Ginger, they are sitting together at what I would call a diner and talking about having choices. The elephants arrive, and having Serge and Colin and Nubby Nubs making the decision which one of them is gonna go and tell Throat is just... And then there's also happy ending for Gaspote. So the last that we saw Gaspote and Laddie, they essentially offered to sacrifice themselves in order to, get the plot going and do a thing that had to be done. They both survive. Spoilers, like this entire review has been. Let's just say that Hollywood gives back to Gaspote what Hollywood essentially stole from him, and he himself also loses his ability to speak and his sentience, and again, is he happier for it? So yeah, moving pictures. I absolutely adore this movie. I adore this book. It's a delight to read, trying to figure out all the references to just everything. Musicals, movies, songs, I think. I'm pretty certain that there are a few songs here that I just did not quite figure out. Characters, movie makers, and studios. There are so many references to so many things. Like, there was one studio within Hollywood called Century of the Fruit Bat, which even an idiot like myself could figure out was a parody of 20th Century Fox. I like this book. It was, like I said, it was such a delight to read all the references. And again, the rereading of this book, like, I can never read these books for the first time ever again. I've read them all, but rereading them is bringing me a lot of joy for the most part so far, because I'm figuring out more of what Pratchett was actually saying, what he was actually writing. And I know more about the things that he was drawing from. And the fact, again, that he took the whole concept of Hollywood, all the movies and references and things that people have said about cinema and the magic of Hollywood, and making this fantastic fantasy novel based around that magic is just... I'm a fan of Terry Pratchett. I'm a big Discworld fan. So forgive me when I say that the man was genius. He was a genius. So the next book is, I believe, Reaperman. And I cannot wait to get to Reaperman, because Reaperman is death. Throughout. We get to follow death throughout. If you watched this entire thing, I will thank you ever so much. And I will hopefully see you when we cover Reaperman. Okay? So until then, take care. God bless.